Dr. Day Han was checking on a sick Veltron lizard when the alarms started screaming. The lights in his clinic turned red and a robotic voice echoed through the speakers. "Emergency! All personnel evacuate Sector 7. This is not a drill." Day looked up from his patient. His sister Yuna burst through the door, her eyes wide with fear. "Something crashed into the station," she said, breathing hard. "A cargo ship. They're saying everyone on board is dead." Day carefully placed the lizard back in its cage. He had been working on Kepler 7 station for only 3 months. The massive space station was home to over 50,000 aliens from different worlds. As the station's veterinarian, Day treated exotic animals that traders brought from across the galaxy. He had seen many strange creatures, but he had never seen a station-wide emergency like this. "What killed them?" Day asked, washing his hands. Yuna pulled up a holographic screen from her wrist device. Security footage played across the blue light. Day watched as something massive tore through the cargo ship's metal walls like paper. The creature moved so fast, the cameras barely caught it. What he did see made his blood run cold. 4 meters tall, covered in scales that looked like dark metal, with claws as long as his forearm. "A Krellthax," Yuna whispered. "It's loose in the station." Day had read about Krellthax in his veterinary studies. They were the apex predators of the Krell system. Nothing in nature could kill them. They had wiped out entire colonies. Zoos refused to keep them. Hunters who tried to capture them never returned. The galactic community considered them the most dangerous creatures in known space. "How many people are in Sector 7? Day asked. 200, maybe more." Yuna's voice shook. "They didn't make it out before security sealed the sector." Day grabbed his medical bag and headed for the door. Yuna caught his arm. "Where are you going? They told everyone to stay away." "The Emergency Council will need information," Day said. "I need to be there." They hurried through the station's corridors. Other residents were running in the opposite direction, away from Sector 7. Day saw fear on every face, human and alien alike. A Grexian merchant pushed past them, his amphibious skin turning pale with terror. Small Nimbari families huddled together, their telepathic whispers filling the air with panic. The council chamber was chaos when they arrived. Commander Rix, the station's security chief, stood at the center. His insectoid body was rigid with stress. His compound eyes reflected the holographic displays showing the Krellthax hunting through the maintenance tunnels. "3 security teams are dead," Commander Rix announced, his clicking voice cutting through the noise. "Every trap we set, it avoids. Every weapon we use, its armor deflects. The creature is intelligent and adapting." An alien council member with tentacles waving anxiously spoke up. "What are our options?" "Protocol Omega," Commander Rick said. The room went silent. "We seal Sector 7 completely and vent it to space. Everything inside dies, including the Krellthax." "And the 200 people trapped inside?" someone asked. "Acceptable losses to save 50,000. Commander Rix's voice had no emotion. "We have 6 hours to decide. After that, the creature will breach into Sector 6, and we lose our chance to contain it." Day stepped forward. "There's another way." Every head turned toward him. Commander Rix's antennae twitched with irritation. "Dr. Han, this is a security matter, not a medical one." "I've studied Krellthax biology," Day said, keeping his voice calm. "They're territorial pack hunters. This one is alone, far from its home world. The cargo crew was probably transporting it illegally. It's not hunting for food. It's scared." A Grexian merchant laughed. "Scared? That thing has killed 15 trained soldiers." "Because it's in pain," Yuna added, stepping beside her brother. She brought up her own research data. "Look at the footage again. Watch how it moves. The left rear leg doesn't touch the ground properly. It's injured." Commander Rix studied the footage. "Even if true, what do you propose? We cannot sedate something we cannot approach. No one survives close contact with a Krell-Thax. Let me try, Day said. Give me 6 hours. If I can't calm it down and treat its injuries, then you can proceed with Protocol Omega. The council erupted into arguments. Most thought Day was insane. A few were curious. One elderly human woman stood up. Ambassador Jiwan had lived on Kepler-7 longer than anyone. She was respected but rarely spoke at councils. We humans are new to the galaxy, Jiwan said quietly, but everyone listened. We don't have the strongest weapons or the fastest ships, but we have something different. We understand animals in ways others don't. Dr. Han has treated creatures that other vets refused to even approach. I say we give him his chance. Commander Rix's mandibles clicked together as he thought. You would die, Dr. Han. You understand this? I understand, Day replied. But those 200 people don't deserve to die because we're too afraid to try something different. Finally, Commander Rix nodded. 6 hours, but you go alone. I will not risk more lives on this attempt. Day agreed, though Yuna immediately protested. I'm going with you, she insisted. You'll need my research data and an extra pair of hands. Before Day could argue, another human approached. Tay was an engineer who had helped Day before when he needed to modify medical equipment for alien animals. You'll also need someone who knows those maintenance tunnels, Tay said. I helped build half of them. Commander Rix looked like he wanted to refuse, but time was running short. Fine. 3 humans will attempt what our best warriors could not. Prepare your equipment. The countdown begins now. As they left the council chamber, Day felt the weight of what he had promised. 200 lives depended on him doing something no one had ever done before. He had to approach the galaxy's most feared predator, gain its trust, and heal it. All within 6 hours. Yuna squeezed his hand. We can do this. Day wished he felt as confident as she sounded. He had treated dangerous animals before, but a Krell-Thax was different. Still, when he closed his eyes, he didn't see a monster in those security videos. He saw a frightened animal in pain, lashing out because it didn't know what else to do. Maybe everyone else in the galaxy saw a beast that needed to be killed. But Day was a veterinarian. He saw a patient that needed help. He just hoped he would live long enough to provide it. Day stood in the equipment room, packing his medical bag with careful precision. His hands were steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. Yuna worked beside him, loading syringes with different sedatives. The problem was simple and terrifying. They had never tested these drugs on a Krell-Thax. They might not work at all, or worse, they might make the creature more aggressive. We need to understand what we're dealing with, Yuna said, pulling up her research on a portable screen. Krell-Thax come from a high-gravity world. Their bones are incredibly dense. Their scales contain a metal compound that forms naturally in their bodies. Bullets bounce off. Energy weapons barely scratch them. Tay checked his tablet, studying maps of the maintenance tunnels. The creature is currently in the old cargo hold in Section 7 Delta. That area hasn't been used in months. Lots of places to hide. That's good, Day said, selecting his smallest surgical tools. It means the Krell-Thax chose somewhere it feels safe. Territorial behavior. It's trying to make a den. A den where it can kill anyone who approaches, Tay muttered, but he kept working. Day made a decision that surprised both of them. He left his tranquilizer gun on the table. Yuna stared at him. You're not taking any weapons? If I go in there ready to hurt it, the Krell-Thax will sense that intention, Day explained. Animals read body language better than words. Fear, aggression, hesitation, they see it all. I need to approach it as a healer, not a threat. Day, it's not a sick puppy. It's a 4-meter killing machine. Every animal is just trying to survive, Day said softly. Even the dangerous ones. They suited up in protective gear, though everyone knew it would barely slow down a Krell-Thax attack. The armor was more for psychological comfort than real protection. Tay led them through the station's back corridors, avoiding the main routes where panicked residents still fled. As they descended into the lower levels, the air grew colder. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the metal walls. They could hear sounds from deeper in the maintenance tunnels. Scraping, heavy breathing. The creature was close. "According to your research," Day whispered to Yuna, "how do Krellthax communicate with each other?" Yuna scrolled through her data. "They use vocalizations, clicks, growls, and a sort of purring sound. Mothers use a specific pattern to calm their young. It's a rhythmic clicking, low frequency. Can you play it for me?" Yuna found an old recording from a nature documentary. The sound was strange and almost musical. Day listened several times, memorizing the pattern. He practiced making the sound with his tongue against his teeth. It wasn't perfect, but it was close. Tay stopped at a sealed door. "This leads to the cargo hold. Once we go through, we're in its territory." His finger hovered over the control panel. "Last chance to change your mind." Day looked at his watch. 4 hours remained. Somewhere in the station, Commander Rix was preparing to vent the entire sector. 200 people were counting on them, though they didn't even know it. "Open it," Day said. The door slid open with a hiss. The cargo hold beyond was massive and dark. Emergency lights created pools of dim illumination, but most of the space was shadows. The air smelled strange, like metal, and something organic Day couldn't identify. They moved slowly into the hold. Tay and Yuna stayed near the entrance while Day walked forward. He could feel eyes watching him. Somewhere in the darkness, the Krellthax was studying them. Day activated his thermal scanner. The device showed heat signatures. There, in the far corner behind a stack of old containers, was a massive shape, the Krellthax. Its body temperature was elevated, another sign of infection or fever. "I'm going closer," Day said quietly into his comlink. "Stay there." "Day, please be careful," Yuna's voice crackled in his ear. Day walked forward, each step slow and deliberate. He kept his hands visible and empty. His breathing was controlled. He had learned years ago that animals could sense fear through smell and sound. A racing heartbeat, rapid breathing. These things triggered predatory instincts. He began making the clicking sound. The rhythmic pattern echoed through the cargo hold. Click, click, pause, click. Click, click, pause, click. The darkness shifted. Something massive moved. The Krellthax emerged from the shadows, and Day's breath caught despite his training. It was even larger than the video suggested. Its scales were the color of dark storm clouds, each one edged with what looked like silver metal. Its eyes were gold and intelligent, filled with pain and rage. Saliva dripped from its jaws, hissing where it hit the metal floor. The creature growled, a sound that vibrated in Day's chest. It took a step forward. Day could run. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he didn't. Instead, he dropped to one knee. He lowered his gaze, not meeting the Krellthax's eyes directly. In animal behavior, direct eye contact was a challenge. Day made himself small and non-threatening. He continued the clicking sound. Click, click, pause, click. The Krellthax stopped. Its massive head tilted, confused. This tiny creature wasn't running, wasn't attacking, was making sounds like a Krell mother. It circled Day, moving with a strange, limping gait. Day noticed it immediately. The left rear leg barely touched the ground. He had been right. The creature was injured. Minutes passed like hours. The Krellthax sniffed at Day, its hot breath washing over him. Up close, he could see scars on its body, old wounds from capture, fresh injuries from its escape. This animal had suffered greatly. Slowly, very slowly, Day reached into his bag. The Krellthax tensed, growling again. Day kept his movements gentle. He pulled out a medical scanner and placed it on the ground between them. Then he slid it forward with his fingertips. The creature sniffed the device, touched it with one massive claw. When nothing bad happened, it relaxed slightly. Day pulled out more items: bandages, antiseptic, a small bottle of pain medication. Each item he showed to the Krelthax first, letting it investigate. "Yuna," he whispered into his comm, "I need you to start approaching, very slowly. Bring the portable medical scanner." "Are you sure?" "It's letting me get close. We need to see how bad the injury is." Yuna emerged from the shadows, moving like Day had taught her. Small steps, non-threatening posture. She was terrified, but trusted her brother completely. The Krelthax watched her approach but didn't attack. It seemed to understand these small creatures were trying to help. Yuna set up the medical scanner and activated it. The holographic display showed the Krelthax's skeletal structure. There, in the left rear leg, was a clear break. The bone had fractured and was healing wrong. Infection had set in around the wound. The creature had been in constant agony. "That's why you've been so angry," Day said softly, as if the Krelthax could understand. "You're hurting, and no one would help you." The creature made a sound that wasn't quite a growl, almost like a whimper. Day made a decision. He reached out his hand slowly and placed it on the Krelthax's scaled leg. The creature tensed, but didn't pull away. Its scales were warm, almost hot to the touch. "I'm going to help you," Day promised, "but you need to trust me." The Krelthax looked at him with those golden eyes. For a moment, Day thought he saw understanding there. Then the creature did something that shocked everyone watching. It lay down. The galaxy's most feared predator lowered itself to the ground and exposed its injured leg to the tiny human who had shown it kindness. Day looked back at Yuna and Tay. They were both staring in disbelief. "Get the surgical equipment," Day said. "We have 3.5 hours to save this animal and 200 people. Let's get to work." Day worked with steady hands, preparing the surgical area around the Krelthax's injured leg. Yuna brought over the portable medical station, setting up lights and tools within easy reach. The creature watched them with alert golden eyes but remained still. Its breathing was heavy and painful. "We need to sedate it," Yuna said quietly. "Even partial sedation. We can't operate on a fully conscious Krelthax." "Small dose," Day agreed. "Just enough to dull the pain. If we knock it completely unconscious, it might panic when it wakes up." He filled a syringe with a carefully calculated mixture. The formula was based on the creature's estimated weight and metabolism, but it was still a guess. Day approached the Krelthax's shoulder, where the scales were slightly thinner. He kept up the clicking sound as he worked. Click, click, pause, click. The needle went in. The Krelthax tensed, but didn't attack. Day injected the sedative slowly, watching for any adverse reaction. The creature's pupils dilated slightly, and its breathing deepened. Good signs. "Talk to me while I work," Day said to Yuna. "Keep monitoring its vital signs." Yuna activated the medical scanner, watching the holographic display of the creature's internal systems. Heart rate is elevated but stable. Body temperature is 42 degrees. That's high even for a Krelthax. Definitely fighting an infection. Day examined the wound more closely now that the creature was calmer. The break was worse than he had thought. The bone had splintered, and fragments were pressing against muscle tissue. Infection had turned the surrounding flesh dark and swollen. If left untreated for another few days, the infection would spread to the bloodstream. Even a Krelthax couldn't survive sepsis. "We're doing a full surgical repair," Day announced. "I need to remove the infected tissue, realign the bone fragments, and set it properly with a biofoam cast." Tay, who had been monitoring the station's security channels from his position near the door, spoke up. "We have 2 hours and 45 minutes. Commander Rix is asking for updates." "Tell him we're making progress," Day said, not looking up from his work. He began the delicate process of cleaning the wound. The Krelthax's biology was different from anything he had worked on before, but the principles were the same. Remove damaged tissue, clean thoroughly, promote healing. His hands moved with practiced precision, cutting away infected flesh while preserving healthy muscle. The Krellthax made low sounds in its throat but didn't move. Occasionally its tail would twitch, a sign of discomfort, but it seemed to understand that Day was helping. "You're so brave," Day murmured as he worked, "staying still while we do this. You're a good patient." Yuna smiled despite her fear. Her brother had always talked to his patients like this, whether they were tiny birds or massive alien creatures. It was one of the things that made him such a good veterinarian. The surgical procedure took over an hour. Day carefully realigned each bone fragment using a combination of surgical pins and bioadhesive to hold them in place. Then he applied the biofoam cast, a substance that would harden around the leg and promote rapid bone growth. It was technology developed for space injuries, where traditional casts were impractical. Just as Day was finishing the final sutures, alarms blared throughout the cargo hold. Red lights flashed. Tay jumped to his feet, checking his tablet. "We have a problem," Tay said, his voice tight with stress. "A security team just entered Sector 7. They're not following Commander Rix's orders. They're hunting the Krellthax." The creature's head snapped up, fully alert despite the sedative. It could sense the approaching danger. Its muscles tensed, preparing to fight. Day pressed his hand firmly against the Krellthax's neck, the way he had seen in the old nature videos. A trust signal. "Easy," he said in a low, calm voice. "Easy. I won't let them hurt you." The Krellthax's eyes met his. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then the creature lowered its head slightly, a sign of trust that made Day's heart ache. Tay was already working on his tablet, trying to contact Commander Rix. "Sir, we have unauthorized personnel in Sector 7. They're going to ruin everything." Commander Rix's voice came through with a burst of static. "I am sealing that section now. They will not reach you." But voices were already echoing through the maintenance tunnels. Footsteps, the clank of weapons. The unauthorized security team was getting closer. "We need that Krellthax dead," someone shouted in the distance. "Think of the trophy, think of the glory." Yuna looked at Day with frightened eyes. "If they come in shooting, the Krellthax will defend itself. All our work will be for nothing." Day thought quickly. The creature's surgery was complete, but it needed time to recover. If it started fighting now, the newly repaired bone could break again. Worse, in its weakened state, it might actually lose to trained soldiers with heavy weapons. "Tay, can you override the cargo hold doors? Seal us in?" Tay's fingers flew across his tablet. "I can, but then we're trapped in here with it." "We were always trapped in here with it," Day pointed out. "The difference is, now it trusts us." Tay initiated the lockdown. The cargo hold doors slammed shut with a heavy clang. Outside, they could hear the security team arriving, shouting in frustration when they found the doors sealed. "Open this door," voices demanded. "We have authorization." "No." "You don't," Commander Rix's voice came through the external speakers. "Return to your posts immediately or face charges of insubordination." There was angry muttering, then footsteps retreating. The danger had passed. For now. Day turned his attention back to the Krellthax. The creature was breathing easier now. The pain medication was working. Its golden eyes were already looking clearer, more alert. He checked the biofoam cast. It was hardening perfectly, forming a protective shell around the repaired leg. In a few hours, the Krellthax would be able to walk without pain for the first time in weeks. The creature shifted, moving its massive head closer to Day. For a terrifying second, Day thought it might attack. But instead, the Krellthax did something extraordinary. It gently nuzzled his shoulder. The gesture was unmistakable. It was the same way Krell mothers showed affection to their young. The creature was thanking him. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away, trying to maintain her professional composure. But Day saw them. He felt the same overwhelming emotion. This creature that the entire galaxy feared had just shown them kindness. Yuna, Day said softly, start documenting everything. Record all of this. The galaxy needs to see what we're seeing. She nodded and activated her recording equipment. The scanner captured the Krell-Thax's vital signs, its behavior, and the successful surgery. Day sat down next to the creature, exhausted. The Krell-Thax was resting now, its breathing steady and peaceful. Without the constant pain, it seemed almost gentle. What happens now? Tay asked. When the 6 hours are up, what do we do with it? Day had been thinking about that. The Krell-Thax couldn't stay on the station. Eventually, someone would try to kill it or capture it, and keeping it in captivity after everything it had been through seemed cruel. We send it home, Day said. Back to Krell Prime, back to its own kind. That's impossible, Tay said. Krell Prime is in restricted space. No one goes there. The Krell species doesn't allow outsiders. Then we'll be the first to ask permission, Day replied. This isn't just about saving one animal anymore. This is about changing how the galaxy sees the Krell-Thax. They're not monsters. They're intelligent, emotional beings who've been hunted and exploited. Yuna looked at her brother with admiration. You really think you can convince the Council to let you take a Krell-Thax back to its home world? I have to try, Day said simply. The Krell-Thax made a soft sound like a purr. Its tail wrapped slightly around Day in a protective gesture. This creature that had killed 15 trained soldiers was now protecting the human who had healed it. Tay checked his watch. We have 1 hour before Protocol Omega. We need to get back to the Council. Day stood up slowly. He placed his hand on the Krell-Thax's head. I'll be back, he promised. I'm not going to abandon you. The creature's eyes followed him as he walked toward the door. It made a questioning sound, worried about being left alone again. I'm coming back, Day repeated. Trust me. And somehow, impossibly, the galaxy's most feared predator did. The council chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread that the human veterinarian had somehow survived close contact with a Krell-Thax. More than survived, he had operated on it. The news seemed impossible. Day stood before the council still wearing his blood-stained surgical clothes. Yuna was beside him with her data, and Tai stood slightly behind, looking uncomfortable with all the attention. Commander Rix addressed the assembly. Dr. Han reports that the Krell-Thax has been successfully treated. The creature is no longer aggressive. However, this leaves us with a new problem. What do we do with it now? Kill it while it's weak, someone suggested immediately. Sell it to a research facility, another voice called out. Keep it sedated and transport it to a prison world, said a third. Day listened to suggestion after suggestion, each one treating the Krell-Thax like an object rather than a living being. Finally, he spoke up. I have a different proposal. We return it to Krell Prime, to its home world. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted over each other. A Valkyrian council member's antennae vibrated with agitation. Krell Prime is forbidden territory. They have destroyed every ship that approached in the last century. Because every ship that approached was trying to hunt them, Yuna countered, stepping forward with her research displayed on holographic screens. Look at the history. The Krell were once a peaceful spacefaring species. They traded with other worlds. Then the exotic pet trade discovered them. Poachers killed thousands. Entire families were wiped out. The survivors retreated to their homeworld and cut off all contact. A Grexian merchant pushed to the front. Day recognized him from the station's commercial district. His name was Toll, and he dealt in rare animals. His amphibious skin glistened with moisture as he spoke. That Krell-Thax is my property, Toll declared. I purchased it legally from licensed hunters. I was transporting it to a buyer when it escaped and killed my crew. I demand compensation for my losses. You purchased a sentient being, Day said. his voice sharp with anger. That's not trade. That's slavery. Sentient. Tall laughed. It's an animal, a dangerous one. By law, it belongs to me. Day turned to the council. I spent hours with that Krell Thax. I looked into its eyes. It understood what I was doing. It chose to trust me. It communicated gratitude. Those are signs of intelligence, not just instinct. Emotional arguments, Commander Rix said, though his tone was less harsh than before. We need practical solutions. Even if we wanted to return the creature, Krell Prime would destroy any ship we sent. Not if we explain what we're doing, Day insisted. The Krell need to know that not all species are like the poachers. Some of us want to help. This could be the beginning of diplomatic relations. An elderly human woman stood up in the back of the chamber. Ambassador Ji-Wan moved slowly to the front, and the crowd parted for her. She had represented humanity on Kepler-7 for 20 years. Her opinion carried weight. I have watched many species interact over my years here, Ji-Wan said, her voice soft but clear. I have seen war and peace, trade and theft, kindness and cruelty. What Dr. Han did today shows something that humanity brings to the galactic community. We see possibilities where others see only problems. She turned to face the full council. The Grexian syndicate nearly drove the Krell to extinction for profit. If we kill this creature or imprison it, we are no better than the poachers. But if we return it home with honor, if we show the Krell people that some species value life over profit, we could change everything. A Nimbari representative, one of the small telepathic beings, spoke in a whisper that everyone could somehow hear. We have touched the Krell Thax's mind from a distance. There is intelligence there, deep intelligence, and great sorrow. Dr. Han speaks truth. The tide in the room was shifting. Day could feel it. But Merchant Toll wasn't finished. This is ridiculous, Toll argued. The resources needed to travel to Krell Prime, the risk to the ship and crew, all for one animal? It's wasteful and dangerous. I invoke my legal rights to my property. Commander Rix's mandibles clicked together as he considered. The law is complicated in this matter. However, Station Regulation 47 states that any creature deemed a threat to station safety can be disposed of at the commander's discretion. Exactly, Toll said, satisfied. Dispose of it. I did not finish, Commander Rix continued. The regulation also allows for alternative solutions if the threat can be permanently removed. Returning the creature to its homeworld would satisfy this requirement. Toll's skin turned an angry purple color. You can't be serious. I am quite serious, Commander Rix said. Dr. Han's proposal has merit. However, it cannot be a station vessel that makes this journey. The political complications are too severe. I'll take it, Day said immediately. A private vessel, not officially connected to the station. Just me, my sister, and anyone else who volunteers. I'm going, Tay said from behind them. Someone needs to navigate. Commander Rix studied them for a long moment. You understand that the Krell may destroy your ship on sight, that even if you survive the journey, you may never return? I understand, Day said, but that creature trusted me when it had every reason to kill me. I'm going to honor that trust. The council voted. It wasn't unanimous. Merchant Toll and several others voted against the plan, but the majority approved. Day could use a small transport shuttle to attempt the journey to Krell Prime. As the meeting ended, Toll approached Day with fury in his eyes. You've made an enemy today, human. I have connections, resources. This isn't over. I'm not afraid of you, Day replied calmly. And neither is the Krell Thax you tried to cage. Ambassador Ji-Wan stopped Day as he was leaving. You're doing something important, she said. Not just for that one creature, but for how the galaxy sees humanity. We have a chance to be bridge builders instead of warriors. Don't waste it. I won't, Day promised. They spent the next day preparing the shuttle. It was a small vessel, designed for short-range cargo transport. Tay worked to upgrade its engines and navigation systems for the longer journey. Yuna stocked it with food, medical supplies, and research equipment. The hardest part was moving the Krell-Thax. The creature had recovered enough to walk, but it was still weak. Day approached it in the cargo hold, clicking softly to announce his presence. The Krell-Thax recognized him immediately. Its tail swished with what Day had learned to recognize as contentment. It nuzzled his shoulder again. "We're going to take you home," Day said, even though he knew the creature couldn't understand his words. But tone mattered. Intent mattered. "Back to Krell Prime. Back to your family." The Krell-Thax made a soft questioning sound. Day showed it an image on his tablet, a picture of Krell Prime that Yuna had found in old databases. Green jungles, purple skies, massive trees. The creature's eyes focused on the image. Its breathing changed. Was it remembering? It took hours to guide the Krell-Thax through the station to the docking bay. People scattered when they saw it coming, even though Day walked beside it calmly. The sight of a human casually strolling next to the galaxy's most feared predator was surreal. At the shuttle, the creature hesitated. It didn't want to enter the small metal space. Day understood. The last ship it had been on was a prison. "This is different," Day assured it. "This ship is taking you home, I promise." Somehow the Krell-Thax trusted him. It ducked its massive head and climbed into the shuttle's cargo area. Day had prepared a space for it with soft materials and proper ventilation. Commander Rix came to see them off. "This is highly irregular," he said, "and probably foolish. But I admire your courage." "Thank you, Commander," Day said. "If by some miracle you succeed, you will have done something no one else has managed, opened a dialogue with the Krell. That would be valuable to the entire galaxy." As Day climbed into the shuttle, he looked back at Kepler-7. The massive station hung in space like a small city. He had been so sure this would be a quiet assignment treating sick animals. Instead, he was about to attempt an impossible journey. Yuna sat in the co-pilot seat, checking systems. Tay was already plotting their course. And in the cargo hold, the Krell-Thax waited with surprising patience. "Everyone ready?" Day asked. "Ready," Yuna confirmed. "As ready as I'll ever be," Tay muttered. The shuttle detached from the station. Space stretched out before them, dark and infinite. Somewhere out there, 2 weeks away, was Krell Prime, a world that had destroyed every ship that approached it for 100 years. Day hoped that bringing one of their own home would make a difference. He had to hope, because 200 people were alive because of the choice he made today, and now he was making another choice, to prove that compassion could succeed where violence had always failed. The first week of the journey was surprisingly peaceful. Day spent hours in the cargo hold with the Krell-Thax, which Yuna had started calling Hanul, a Korean word meaning sky. The name seemed to fit. The creature's scales sometimes caught the light in a way that reminded Day of storm clouds. Hanul was healing well. The biofoam cast had done its job, and the creature could now walk without limping. But more surprising than the physical healing was the personality that emerged as Hanul recovered. The feared apex predator was playful. It enjoyed when Yuna brought it puzzle toys, solving them with surprising intelligence. It was curious about the ship, investigating every corner of the cargo hold with careful attention. And it was gentle with its human companions, always careful not to accidentally hurt them with its massive size. "This changes everything we thought we knew about Krell-Thax," Yuna said, recording notes on her tablet. "They're not mindless killing machines. They're intelligent social creatures. The aggression we've seen is a response to trauma and captivity." Day watched Hanul carefully manipulate a complex locking mechanism with its claws, solving it in seconds. The Krell were spacefaring once. Their ships, their technology, it didn't disappear. It's dormant knowledge, but it's still there. Tay appeared in the doorway, his expression worried. "We have a problem. I'm picking up ships on our sensors. 3 of them. Approaching fast." Day felt his stomach drop. Pirates? Worse, mercenaries. I'm getting ID signals from one of the ships. It's registered to a company that Merchant Toll has connections with. They hurried to the cockpit. The sensor screen showed 3 ships in pursuit, much larger and better armed than their small shuttle. Tay's hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to squeeze more speed from their engines. "They're hailing us," Yuna said. "Answer it," Day decided. The screen flickered to life. A scarred alien face appeared, a Draxian mercenary with cold eyes. "Transport shuttle, you are carrying stolen property. Surrender the Krell-Thax immediately, and we might let you live." "That creature isn't property," Day replied, "and it's under our protection." The mercenary laughed. "Your protection? You're 3 humans in a cargo shuttle. We have enough firepower to turn you into dust. Last chance, hand over the Krell-Thax." "No," Day said simply. "Your funeral." The screen went dark. Immediately, weapons fire lit up the space around them. Tay dodged desperately, but their shuttle wasn't built for combat. The shields were taking heavy damage. "We can't outrun them," Tay shouted over the alarms, "and we definitely can't outfight them." Day's mind raced. They were so close to Krell Prime, only 2 days away. To fail now would mean everything they had done was for nothing. Hanol would be captured again, probably killed this time for being too much trouble. A massive impact rocked the shuttle. The shields failed. The next hit would breach the hull. Then something unexpected happened. Hanol appeared in the cockpit. The creature had squeezed through the connecting passage, driven by some instinct. Its golden eyes fixed on the control panels, and it made a decision. Before anyone could stop it, Hanol's claws moved across the shuttle's systems with impossible precision. The creature was accessing ship functions that Tay had thought were locked. "What is it doing?" Yuna asked in amazement. The shuttle's power systems suddenly rerouted. Energy that had been going to life support and engines suddenly concentrated in one burst. A feedback pulse exploded from their ship like an electromagnetic wave. The 3 mercenary ships' systems went dark. Their engines died. Their weapons powered down. The vessels drifted helpless. "How did it do that?" Tay stared at Hanul in shock. Day remembered what they had discussed. The Krell were once spacefaring. Hanul had just demonstrated ancestral knowledge that had been dormant until the creature needed it. "You saved us," Day said to Hanul. "You protected your pack." The Krell-Thax made a pleased rumbling sound and carefully made its way back to the cargo hold, as if what it had done was perfectly normal. They traveled the rest of the way to Krell Prime in awed silence. Yuna documented everything while Tay tried to understand the modifications Hanul had made to their systems. The creature had rewritten parts of their ship's code with just its claws. When Krell Prime finally appeared on their sensors, Day felt his breath catch. The planet was beautiful. Lush green jungles, vast purple oceans, and skies the color of deep twilight. But surrounding it was a network of defense satellites, ancient technology still functioning after centuries. "This is it," Tay said nervously. "If those satellites fire on us, we won't survive." Hanul came to the cockpit again. The creature looked at its homeworld through the view screen, and the sound it made was heartbreaking. Longing, hope, and sadness all mixed together. Then Hanul did something extraordinary. It opened its mouth and made a complex series of vocalizations, clicks, growls, and harmonic tones that seemed to follow a precise pattern. The defense satellites powered down. A pathway opened through the defense grid. "It spoke to them," Yuna whispered. "That was a recognition code. Hanul told the satellites we're friends." They descended through Krell Prime's atmosphere. The coordinates Hanul provided led them to a clearing in a massive jungle. As they landed, Day could see shapes moving in the trees. Krell-Thax. Dozens of them. "Stay in the ship," Day told the others. "Let me go first." He activated the cargo door. Hanul bounded out, limping only slightly now. The creature ran toward the other Krellthax with obvious joy. An older, larger Krellthax emerged from the group. Its scales were darker, marked with age. This was clearly the matriarch. She examined Hanul carefully, her eyes noting the healed leg, the biofoam cast, the signs of good treatment. Then the matriarch turned her attention to Day, who had stepped out of the shuttle with his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. The moment stretched. The matriarch could kill him in seconds. The other Krellthax watched, waiting for her signal. Then the matriarch bowed her head, a gesture of respect and gratitude. Yuna and Tay emerged from the shuttle slowly. Using translation algorithms and Hanol's help, they managed basic communication. Dai explained what had happened, the illegal capture, the suffering, the healing, and the journey home. The matriarch listened to everything. Then, through a combination of gestures and vocalizations that Yuna's device struggled to translate, she shared the Krell history. They had once explored the stars, traded with other species, shared their knowledge. But they had been betrayed, hunted, nearly destroyed. They had retreated to their homeworld and sworn never to trust outsiders again. "We're not asking you to trust everyone," Day said, "but maybe you could trust us. Humanity is new to the galaxy. We're still learning. We don't want to repeat the mistakes others made." The matriarch considered this. Then she made an offer that stunned them all. She invited them to stay for one lunar cycle, about 30 days, to observe, to learn, to understand the Krell people. In exchange, the Krell would consider reopening diplomatic relations, but only through human intermediaries. Day looked at Yuna and Tay. "We should contact Kepler-7. This is bigger than us." They sent a message to Commander Rix and Ambassador Jiwan. The response came back within hours. "Stay. Learn. This could change everything." The month on Krell Prime was transformative. Day studied Krell medicine and biology. Yuna documented their society, their technology, their culture. Tay worked with Krell engineers on ship designs that blended their technologies. Hanul stayed close to Day during the entire visit. The bond between them remained strong. On the last day before they left, Hanul brought Day to a special place, a garden where Krell families honored their ancestors. It was a privilege rarely given to outsiders. When it was time to leave, saying goodbye to Hanul was harder than Day expected. The creature had become more than just a patient. It was a friend. Hanul nuzzled Day's shoulder one last time, making the soft clicking sound that meant affection. The matriarch gave Day a gift, a small device that would identify him as a friend to all Krell. It was the first time such an honor had been given to an outsider in over a century. The journey back to Kepler-7 felt different. They carried with them not just memories, but hope, proof that understanding could bridge even the widest gaps. When they docked at the station, they were surprised by the crowd waiting for them. Commander Rix, Ambassador Jiwan, and hundreds of station residents, human and alien alike, had gathered to greet them. "You did it," Commander Rix said, his voice carrying unusual emotion. "You opened a door that has been closed for generations." Ambassador Jiwan embraced each of them. "The Krell have agreed to share their biotechnology with us. In exchange, humanity will help protect them from poachers. This is the beginning of something extraordinary." Merchant Toll had been arrested during their absence. His illegal smuggling operations had been exposed, and he faced serious charges. The case became a landmark decision for animal rights across the galaxy. Months passed. Day returned to his work at the station's veterinary clinic, but everything had changed. The Krell Alliance brought new opportunities and challenges. Other species that had been hunted or exploited began reaching out to humanity, hoping for similar compassion. One day, Day received a transmission from Krell Prime. It was from Hanul. The device Yuna had left behind captured the Krellthax surrounded by others, healthy and happy. The matriarch's voice came through their translation system. "The healer who walks among beasts, we honor you. You showed kindness when the galaxy showed only fear. This is not forgotten. When you need us, we will answer." Day smiled, exhausted, but fulfilled. Yuna appeared in his doorway with a message. "There's a distress call from a mining colony. Something about an unkillable creature terrorizing the workers. They're asking for you specifically." "What kind of creature?" Day asked, already packing his medical bag. "They don't know, but it's hurt and scared, and they want to kill it." Yuna grinned. "Sound familiar?" Day thought about Hanul, about the journey they had taken together. He thought about all the misunderstood creatures in the galaxy, feared because no one had tried to understand them. "Tell them we're on our way," he said, because that's what Dr. Dahan did. While the rest of the galaxy saw monsters that needed to be destroyed, he saw patients that needed help. And in a universe full of weapons and warriors, sometimes the most powerful thing you could offer was compassion. The galaxy was slowly learning what humanity had always known, that every creature, no matter how dangerous or feared, deserved a chance at understanding. And sometimes, all it took was one person willing to reach out their hand instead of raising a weapon. Day looked out at the stars, thinking of Hanul somewhere out there among them. He had gone into that cargo hold expecting to die. Instead, he had found a friend, opened a new alliance, and proven that the galaxy's most feared beast was really just looking for someone to trust. And in doing so, he had shown the galaxy what humanity could be. Not the strongest or the smartest, but the most willing to try compassion when everyone else had given up. It was a good beginning,